far, so good. We all know for that. Yeah, right.
Is this some sort of a joke?
Three, two, one. Why are you laughing?
Why are you looking at me?
I don't know, because you're laughing.
Go.
All right, well, welcome.
Editing room floor.
All right, well, welcome to the first episode of A Priest, Minister, and Rabbi Walk Into a Bar. We're so glad to have you here. We're taking a lighthearted look at religion, and if you're not a church person or a synagogue person or a religious person, you're in the right place, because we're talking to you. A lot of people have questions about religion, maybe even some cynicism or anger at religious traditions, and we just want to talk through all that, kind of a lighthearted look with religion. My name's Father Roger. I'm the pastor of a church called St. Hilary Catholic Church. We're in Tiburon, California, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, California. And I'm here with my fellow podcasters. So,
Wow, that was good.
thank you. I've been rehearsing that in my brain.
That
all
was
the way
like
up
you
here.
described what we're doing so nice and succinctly.
Yes.
Well done.
And you are.
Oh, me next?
Yes.
Oh God, sorry, I hit my microphone. I guess technically my title is the Reverend Dr. Bethany Nelson.
You're a doctor?
I
Oh my gosh.
I
Didn't know that.
got my Doctor of Ministry degree a year and a half ago, and I'm still not used to the title, but I'd go by Bethany. So I am the associate pastor at Westminster Presbyterian Church, also in Tiburon, California. Going to hear a theme here. I'll be celebrating my 20-year anniversary there in January.
Awesome.
So, I've been there
So
a
you
long
started
time.
when you were 5.
Yes, definitely. That's what I did.
And who are you?
I am Cantor Naomi Weiss, not a rabbi.
Yeah, we're fudging a little on the rabbi
Fudging
thing.
a little bit on the rabbi thing, but cantors are the singy versions of rabbis.
Singing rabbis.
Singing.
Right?
Yeah, I would say rabbis know a lot more text, and I'm an expert at the liturgy and the music of the Jewish tradition, and I am the cantor at Congregation Kol Shofar in
Tiburon, California.
Nice.
Well, we are on location at Hop Monk Tavern in Novato, California, just a little bit north of Tiburon, and we're so grateful to the people here for letting us use this location. And we all have a drink, so let's toast
Oh, yeah.
for our inaugural episode.
Cheers.
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 There you go.
L'chaim.
I have to cut out me spitting the ice out.
No. That's perfect. That's what one does.
All right, so this is the first episode of a priest, a minister, and a rabbi walk into a bar at Christmaka. And we're talking about holiday traditions because we love the holidays. We love the holidays.
Yes.
So what are you guys', can I say you guys'?
Sure.
Okay, what are
Please.
you guys' favorite holiday memory?
So, I spent some time in Baton Rouge. You could say y'all's.
Yeah, what are y'all's? Yeah, I'm originally from Atlanta.
Well, there you go.
I
See,
mean, it comes
bring out
naturally.
the Southern. Come on. So I am a PK, which means I'm a preacher's kid. My dad is a pastor also. So one of my memories is Christmas Eve is always a big time in a pastor's world. Lots of services, busy day. And so my dad would be at church pretty much all day long, but he would get a little break for dinner. And so he'd run home from church, and every single year growing up, he had one request: beef stew. Never, ever in the rest of the year did our family eat beef stew.
But he wanted beef stew.
But
How
he
come?
wanted beef stew on Christmas Eve.
What's that about?
I think it was because it was, in his mind, sort of hearty and comforting and something to sort of help get him through the rest of the day and all the services that he was leading. But just so out of left field, but something obviously all these years later that has stuck with me, But it's not just eating the beef stew. It's the fact that, he made time in the middle of his busy day to come home, to have a Christmas Eve dinner with all of us, something we shared together. And then, went off and did his thing. But beef stew, I tell you, it is the new Christmas Eve tradition. Bet you didn't know about
I
that.
didn't. I have to give that a try.
Beef stew.
What about you, Naomi?
Well-
Favorite holiday tradition?
Hanukkah's not a big holiday, but we always had the family just get together and light the Hanukkah menorah, and it's also not oddly a gift-giving holiday traditionally, and my family was very traditional, but there were socks, there were pajamas, in terms of gifts.
Very practical items.
The big gift-giving holiday was actually Passover. And my best memories really are of Shabbat, of the Sabbath meals on Friday nights, which happened every week. And it was a time for our family every week to really make that bubble of time for the family together, to sit together. And I just have great memories of just being with my sisters and my parents and connecting.
That's awesome. For me, it was, I grew up, I didn't grow up Catholic. I grew up Lutheran, which is a non-Catholic Christian tradition. Did you not know that?
Us learning new things about you.
I know, right? So
you grew up Lutheran. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, carry on.
When the Reformation happened, in the 1500s, so Martin Luther was one of the people who pointed out all the missteps that the church had been making recently. And so anyway, the Lutheran tradition started from that. But anyway, one of the beloved traditions in the Lutheran denomination is Lucia Fest on December 13th. And so I grew up in Atlanta at a church called Lutheran Church of Redeemer. And really we're celebrating Santa Lucia, or Santa Lucia. And she was a saint of light. So the tradition is that in the early days of Christianity, when Christianity was illegal for the first 300 years, a lot of the Christians would gather in the catacombs below Rome and to celebrate and to worship. And so Santa Lucia would carry a crown of candles, lit candles, so people could find their way in the catacombs. And so
on her head?
On her head.
Like a literal crown?
Yeah, it's not exactly
very
safe.
heavy.
Not exactly safe.
Sheesh.
But
Okay.
Sounds very heavy.
so they celebrated that every year in the Lutheran Church on December 13th. And I remember there's a whole procession. A young girl would be picked, to wear this crown of 4 lit, burning candles. And
Entire
in her
hair
white
back,
robe.
I hope.
I know, let's hope so, right? No accidents happened, at least not on my watch. And then there was this whole train of, kids, and I was a star boy, and I get to wear this pointed cap with stars on it, and a little wand with a star on
Lutherans have all the good headwear.
Please tell me you have
here.
pictures.
I do, I don't know. I'll have to look for them. Yeah. So I was adorable, I know. Right?
Sure,
So that
absolutely.
was my favorite memory.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we want to know, though, what is Hanukkah all about? Because this is a huge, major, important festival in Judaism, right? Hanukkah, right around the same time of Christmas.
It falls around the same time of Christmas, but it is on the list of holidays, maybe number 8 or 9 in level of importance.
Really, that low?
It's pretty low. Yeah. And it's actually the celebration of a military victory of a small rebel group called the Maccabees, against the Syrian Greeks, who had outlawed the practice of all Judaism, were looking to unify all of the Syrian Greek empire and they wanted it to be culturally monolithic, and the Jews really wanted to keep being Jewish, and so they also took over our holy temple in Jerusalem and defiled it with pig's blood and with all sorts of things. They took away all of the precious vessels that were used in the rituals, and
They were definitely some of the bad guys in the Bible.
definitely were. Yes, Antiochus and his buds, Antiochus IV. Yeah. So it really celebrates the victory of this small band of very devoted Jewish rebels against a very large Greek army. And then the rededication of the temple. So the word Hanukkah literally means dedication. Also, it is on the 25th of the month, the Hebrew month of Kislev. So
is that how you say it? I would say
Kislev.
Kislev.
Kislev. Well, Chanukah.
Chanukah. Well, I'm learning to say Hanukkah.
Hanukkah. Right? Yeah, it's funny because you don't know how to spell. There's no ch sound in the English alphabet. So how do you spell it? And ch, which is ch to us, which is very common, or you could do the h with the dot under it, or the kh, which looks really awkward.
So it's Kislev.
It's actually the K sound, Kislev.
Kislev. Okay.
Yep, there's no ch there.
I'm going back to the 8th or 9th most important holiday. So I would say if you were to ask a random Christian on the street, name a Jewish holiday, Hanukkah would probably be like maybe first off their mouth. Maybe Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
So why do you think in society, like we non-Jewish folks, think that Hanukkah is so important when really it's not? Is it just because it happens to be near Christmas?
Literally. Because
Really?
Christmas got commercialized,
And
very
so,
commercialized,
yeah.
and little Jewish children heard the song The 12 Days of Christmas, and a lot of Jews think that there are 12 days of gifts. So it's hilarious that my Christian friends say, wow, you Jews get 8 nights of gifts and we only get 1. I'm like, but no, you guys get 12
Well, yeah, but-
because there's a song about it. And there's, partridge in a pear tree.
And drummers drumming.
And drummers
Yes.
drumming and ladies dancing. And so don't you get 12? So this was this misconception that got bounced back and forth.
Yep.
And as Christmas is so beautiful, and there are the lights and the trees, and it's gorgeous. And how does a Jewish parent explain to their child, well, that's actually not our holiday and we don't get to celebrate that, even though we have all of these other amazing holidays.
Sure, yeah.
But Christmas, not by its own nature, but in the culture that we live in, got so commercialized and upfront that, and then that song. and then all of a sudden parents were feeling pressure to give gifts. And it's not even a gift-giving holiday. It is literally a holiday where you light lights. It's a holiday of light in the darkness, in the darkest days of the year. And
What's the blue all about, right? It's blue lights, right?
I think blue just has become the color for Jewish stuff, and now there's probably an answer that my rabbi would know better about why blue
He understands
is
Jewish stuff.
blue is the color of Jewish stuff. But I think it isn't red and green, and I think you're going to talk about red and green, so it's
Yeah.
a distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, in our Christian liturgical colors, the liturgical color for Advent is blue.
Purple!
Oh yeah, we could talk about that.
We do have
purple.
blue in my prayer shawl. In the ancient times, it was that these prayer fringes, one of them needed to be what it was called techelet. It's in the, I think it's described in Deuteronomy. And techelet was a dye from, ironically, some kind of crustacean that we don't really know much about or even know where it is. And they've recently found what that color was, and now you can buy your fringes with that blue, and I think that also might be related to why things are blue.
The blue lights? Okay,
Interesting.
yeah.
Do you all do purple at St. Hilary for
It's
Advent?
purple, yeah. So Advent is, for anybody who doesn't know, Advent is like the 4 weeks before Christmas, right? It's a time of like preparing, and people are supposed to slow down, right? They're supposed to slow down.
Yes,
and all that.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
Take
so-
some deep breaths. So, you talk about the commercialism and how huge Christmas has become, which is a pretty secular thing. So, yeah, and Advent really trying to push against that a little bit and be like, let's maybe not try to buy into the crazy commercialism. Instead, let's slow down. Let's really consider what we're celebrating here.
Wow.
Let's really make sure our hearts and minds and bodies are prepared to welcome this Christ child.
Yeah, it's
You're
kind of
creating
hard
a
these
bubble,
days,
a
too.
bubble of Advent around.
Yeah.
Yeah, around all the craziness. Although it's hard to fight
it-
against that, right?
it is.
Even
It
in my
is.
church, we set up the Christmas trees. We already have a Christmas tree in the church because I love Christmas so much, right?
See, our former pastor, he's now retired, had like a ban on Christmas trees in the church.
Really,
Yeah,
yeah.
because he said it was not really
Boring.
a religious symbol.
Sorry, Rob.
No, not Rob. No, our former pastor. Rob,
okay.
we are
Rob's
not
more
bad
fun,
mouthing
yeah.
it. But that sort of continued. We don't have a tree.
Yeah, yeah. That's really the way it should be. But we don't actually turn the lights on the tree until Christmas. So
That makes sense.
we're fudging a little bit there too. But anyway, for Advent, we do purple. You can do purple or blue, but purple is traditionally a color of royalty, and so Christians believe, that Christ is the King, and so we're waiting for him to come into our hearts, and so we wear purple. What's the deal with blue?
So, yes, many, many years ago, I think it was purple only.
Yeah.
Blue's kind of a new thing. But purple is also the liturgical color in Lent, which is the season before Easter.
Yeah.
A similar reason, royalty celebrating Jesus. So you have purple in Advent, purple in Lent. That's 2 purples. So more recently, there's been a movement to blue, and I think it has to do with Mary, because often Mary is sort of
Oh yeah, blue is
depicted
associated
in
yeah.
blue, right? You see, a Catholic would know all about Mary. Right?
I do.
You
But,
guys,
well, another
you guys
episode
do
for that
Mary
one.
well.
You do. I've been to a couple of Catholic weddings, my friends, and you do Mary very well.
Don't they?
Yeah.
Yes. So blue sort of drawn from Mary and turning that to sort of separate Advent from Lent. But maybe
Is
we
the
just
blue with
stole it
Mary?
from the Jewish tradition.
I don't know. Is
Yeah.
blue and Mary like a water of life kind of thing? Is that what that symbolism
Well,
is?
I think it goes back to some, oh, and we should say, by the way, that our opinions here are not representative of the various traditions
We
here.
had
These
to
are
say
our
that
opinions.
at the beginning. 3 individual opinions.
That's right. That's right. But I think, if I'm correct on this, the Eastern Church icons, if you've seen icons, right? And so blue and red were common colors, and blue symbolizes humanity, and red symbolizes divinity. So you'd often see Jesus with his red, and Mary with blue. Humanity. I think I'm right about that, but if I'm wrong, please forgive me. But all I know,
But you know
all I
what?
know
It's a
is
good story regardless.
I like it. It makes sense.
I like it.
I like
Let's
it.
go with it.
all I know is that I look great in purple. So I love this season for that. And while we're talking about
really
colors,
brings out the eyes, right?
well, I have blue eyes, I'm told. So the blue, maybe I should get blue
Well,
vestments.
yeah, there you go.
But that brings up the thing about red and green as Christmas colors.
Yes.
So a lot of people you see red and green everywhere at Christmas, and green is a color of like plant life, right? Fauna, right? Flora,
Flora,
fauna?
flora.
Flora. And what's fauna?
The animals.
Oh, sorry, flora, right? And would think I didn't go to school. And green, evergreen plants that are evergreen around the year. And so Christmas, because it's celebrating Jesus, who brought eternal life, we believe, brought eternal life to people. So that's the green. It's like symbolizing everlastingness, everlasting life. And then the red, I know this sets you off. The red
yes,
goes.
we already talked about this before.
The red goes with the blood of Christ, and that's how the eternal life came, right, through his death on the cross. So.
I'm waiting for your reaction.
Go. What's the issue?
I'm
I'm going to take a drink before you tell us this.
I just have trouble with the bloody Jesus, especially at Christmas.
I mean, really, right? He comes as a little baby.
When
Why
we're
the blood?
celebrating that cute little baby in the manger, I mean, come on, we don't have to go to bloody Jesus. So you had warned me before that those were what the colors were. So I decided to do my own what is the anti-research, like research in
right.
opposition research to your bloody Jesus.
Your op-ed.
Oh no!
So I found
Getting called out here.
No. I definitely saw what you saw, the bloody Jesus. But I also saw some theories that it came from holly. Because holly has the green leaves and the red berries.
Yeah, but let me go into the holly. I'm so glad it's almost like we scripted this out.
No. But then I read something that the red actually comes from Coca-Cola. Have you seen that?
Oh, come on. What website are you on?
So, you know that Coca-Cola's color is red, right? So many years ago, they had an advertising campaign, and they had someone draw up like a Santa Claus, and they gave Santa a red suit to be Coca-Cola red, and so then the color became red.
But didn't the Santa or the St. Nicholas come far beyond before Coca-Cola?
Yes,
and he was
but
also wearing
apparently
red?
Coca-Cola gave him the red suit.
Oh my.
Again, my research could be flawed, but I thought that
think
was
there's some
cool.
flawed research. Oh yeah,
So
for sure.
no, but I can't end on my bloody Jesus. So for me, that just is like signifies the gruesomeness of his death, and at least in my own personal faith, I much prefer to focus on the hope and the joy of his resurrection,
Right.
not on the gruesomeness of his death. So that's why bloody
Absolutely.
Jesus at Christmas time.
And of course, Christmas is all about his birth, right?
Yes.
His birth,
I mean, if
which
you
is
wanna
a
go to
happy
Easter-
thing.
Which
Talk
I
about-
mean, I could also have been bloody, but that's a whole other.
Okay.
So anyway, red and green. There
Red and
you
green.
go.
Well,
I
and
mean,
the
you were going
holly-
to talk about holly.
Yeah, the holly.
That's
sort
how I
of-
go the editing
I got
room
us
floor,
totally
right?
sidetracked by Coca-Cola.
But you're not going to like the answer about holly.
No, it's okay.
You are not going to like the answer about holly
carry
because
on.
holly, with its red, what you call it, red
Berries.
berries, is the same symbol. The red that's why it's a Christmas symbol. So the holly has what does it have on it?
It has the green.
Thorns. Holly had
the
thorns.
crown of
What did Jesus wear on the cross?
thorns.
Crown of thorns, right? And it's green for everlasting life, and it's red for the blood. I'm sorry you can't get away from it, but we don't have to focus on it.
Now you got blood
Jesus.
and thorns now to worry about.
But let's talk about a great.
So,
Yeah,
when
go
I
ahead.
was growing up, the associate pastor at the church where I was growing up automatically said we can't sing a hymn if it talks too much about bloody Jesus. So maybe part of it is like from way back in my childhood and sort of like learned behavior. So anyway.
Yeah. Since we're talking about like some Christmas symbols, and we want to come back to Hanukkah,
Okay.
but I want to talk a few minutes about like Christmas symbols. There's another one that's much better than bloody Jesus.
Thank you.
Christmas bells. Christmas bells, right?
Yes.
Silver bells are ringing.
Silver bells,
Silver bells.
Right.
It's
and,
Christmas time.
and if you've seen that movie, It's a Wonderful Life,
I
right?
love
Which
it.
always comes out at
Whenever
Christmas.
you hear a bell ring, an angel gets his wings.
Exactly, right?
Best movie ever.
And there are other movies with bells in it, like Bells of St. Mary. Maybe that's not a Christmas movie, but bells are in all kinds of movies in Christmas time, including my favorite Christmas movie, which is The Polar Express. You guys seen that one?
I've seen parts
Children's
of it.
movie,
Now I
animated?
need to see it.
Has the train, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the train, right? So the premise is that on Christmas Eve, this train comes and stops in front of this little boy's house. And in the middle of the night, he hears the train. He's the only one who can hear the train. And he comes out to the train, and he's invited aboard. And it turns out it's this whole train full of kids. And they're going to the North Pole to see Santa. Somehow they got lucky enough for that to happen. And they go all the way to the North Pole. There's lots of twists and turns and ups and downs and exciting adventures. But finally they get to North Pole. And this kid gets to meet Santa Claus in person. And he gets his special wish. And his wish was to have a bell from Santa's reindeer on his sleigh, right? He wants a bell from one of
his wish is a bell?
a bell from Santa's reindeer.
He can
right?
wish anything he wants, and he
wanted
wishes a bell.
if I remember correctly. So he
Okay.
gets the bell and he puts it in the pocket of his robe, right? Because he went in the middle of the night when he was in his robe, and there was a hole in his pocket, and he lost the bell. And he gets home, and he is beside himself. The train has taken off, and he goes to sleep, and he's totally like upset and sad. And the next morning, he wakes up, and they go through all the Christmas tree presents under the tree with his family, and they open one last gift, and it's the bell. And here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. He shakes the bell, and he can hear it ring, but no one else can. His parents can't hear it, but only he and his sister. I think his
You just
sister
sent
can hear it.
chills, like chills.
Right?
Yes.
And the end of the movie is that only people who believe
Oh, isn't that
can hear the bell. And so
sweet.
bells are a symbol of Christmas hope and gathering people together. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That is. That's lovely.
Isn't that sweet?
Yeah, I'm gonna go watch Polar Express like this week.
It's absolutely it's one of
I
my
haven't
favorite
seen
movies.
it.
It's on.
Yeah.
I think it's on Disney Plus.
My favorite Christmas movie is Elf.
I love that too. I watch that every year. What do you love about it?
It's just, it's funny, but it has a good message. It's lighthearted.
Mine is Fred Claus.
What is
That's kind of a random.
It's great. Have you seen it?
No.
It's really good.
Fred
Fred Claus, Santa's younger brother, who's really angry. It's a great movie with a great message. It's
What's the
really-
message?
I don't remember. It's just a great
great movie
feel
with a
good
great
movie.
message,
Good
right?
movie with a great message.
Are there
Fred
any good
Claus.
Hanukkah movies?
Oh yeah, great question.
Oh, no.
I mean, you seem fairly well versed on Christmas movies.
No, yeah. Well, there are a lot of great Christmas movies.
So, so this brings up a question
The
for
Hebrew
me.
Hammer.
The Hebrew.
I haven't.
Is that really a?
Yes, and I haven't seen it. It's not really a Hanukkah. But I haven't seen it long enough that I couldn't even tell you what it's about. But it was very funny.
Okay.
The
There you
Hebrew
go.
Hammer.
Add it to your
And this is a
must-see list.
Hanukkah Christmas movie. Okay, so this brings up a question for me, and it's a little sensitive, but we talked about this before, so you're okay with it. So, when I was younger, before I was a priest, I lived in Atlanta, and I'd always go to midnight mass on Christmas Eve at the cathedral, like that, which is a big, it's kind of the big church where the bishop is and everything, and they do everything with a lot of pageantry. And I loved midnight mass. And I have a very close Jewish friend who would want to come with me every Christmas Eve. They loved it. She brought her family, and they would sing the Christmas carols and everything. And so I got a question. I got to ask: Christmas envy?
Christmas envy.
Got it?
Yeah. So what's not to love about the lights, the goodwill, the good cheer, and we live in a Christian country, so everything is Christmas with the decorations and the commercialization, for better or for worse. But the beautiful windows at Macy's, the lights. Every year I would find out where the good neighborhood to look at the good Christmas lights is. So who doesn't want to do that? So I think people who are, observant, faithful Jews are not going to have this envy. We have so many holidays, and they don't fall in the winter necessarily. And what we do have for Hanukkah, we really enjoy. But how do you explain to a child who's raised in modern American culture that that's not our holiday? It's a hard thing. And especially for, assimilated secular families who aren't really observing all of the other holidays we have, which are fabulous and
meaningful.
Meaningful. Sukkot is my favorite holiday. We'll talk about that actually later today. But Passover and Sukkot and actually Rosh Hashanah and even Yom Kippur, which sounds like an awful holiday, is actually a very joyful and amazing holiday. But for somebody who's living in the more secular world and not educated enough to really understand the meaning of these holidays and how to observe them and really bought into it, it's really hard to look at all of the Christmas and explain to your kid that's not our holiday and you don't get to do that. So it's just hard. It's on the children.
But you know what I'm really jealous of? There's one holiday that you have that I'm really jealous of.
Yom Kippur, right?
No.
Yes, that's the one.
That's the one.
No, it's Purim, right?
Oh.
Because you get to drink and get drunk, right? Or is that just a myth?
No, it's not a myth. The rabbis, and it's actually a.
There you go. Speaking of,
the rabbis actually say that you should, because there is another, averting another potential destruction of the Jews, and foiling the plans of somebody who wanted to eradicate us, the evil Haman in Persia, and he was a bad guy. And when we ritually read the scroll of Esther, which is the telling of the story of Purim, the rabbis say that you should celebrate and become so drunk that when Mordechai, who is the hero of the story, when they read his name and they read Haman's name, that you're so drunk you can't tell the difference. That, of course, has led to some concern about, first of all, drinking too much, and And there are rabbinic stories about arguments between drunk people, and so you have to you have to
temper
just
the traditions.
Temper. That was the word I was looking for. Temper your understanding of that. There are two holidays that people get extremely drunk on. Two. Yes, Simchat Torah, which is the way end of that 1 month of holidays we have, starting with Rosh Hashanah, and then there's Yom Kippur, and then there's Sukkot. We have an entire month of holidays that just doesn't stop. And then the very last day is Simchat Torah, where we start our ritual cycle of reading ritually from the Torah scroll. We end it, and then we start it again, roll back to the beginning of the scroll. It's a lot of fun. People get really drunk on that holiday as well. That's the one I tend to drink more on. But it's not fabulously appropriate all the time. And but I'll invite both of you to join us for Purim this year. And
there you go.
I don't think we'll be drinking much, but we'll be celebrating and having a good time.
I feel like we don't really have any drinking Christian holiday.
Kind of boring, right?
We are so boring.
What about eggnog?
Is that Christian?
No, that's more of a secular deal.
You see, we think of that as totally a Christian deal.
Yeah,
the Jews don't drink eggnog.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting thing about Christmas is that, there are definitely some Christmas traditions that are absolutely secular that have nothing to do with the sacred tradition, right? And then, obviously, lots of sacred tradition as well around Christmas. But
really, I love eggnog. Especially with rum or bourbon.
I need brandy in mine. Yeah. Brandy in my eggnog.
Yeah, I'm not saying eggnog's a bad thing. It's just not a religious tradition to drink eggnog.
Maybe we should come up with
I have a question.
a drinking religious.
There you go.
I have a question for both of you.
Inspired by our Jewish cantor friend, we need a drinking Christian.
I mean,
yes, you have a question.
I have a question. So, at least from the Jewish perspective, Hanukkah happens right around the winter solstice, and it is a holiday of light. And one could also speculate that there are some pagan traditions that were taken. Yeah. Are there any of the Christian traditions that sort of got woven, like some pagan stuff got woven into it with the solstice?
Christmas.
Yeah. Christmas. You want to take that one?
Did you ask that question knowing the answer?
I imagine, but I also don't know what the religious take on it is. I know what the sort of scholarly secular take is, but some of it may be truly deeply rooted in Christianity from the start, and then you've got a lot of pagan solstice stuff happen at the same time, and I wonder where the weaving happens.
Yeah. Well, so even the tradition of the Christmas tree, and help me out here.
Yeah, I will.
But I believe that actually started as sort of a solstice pagan tradition. And again, it's sort of back to the evergreen thing, right?
Yeah.
The importance of evergreen and sort of life everlasting isn't just a religious thing, right? It's a natural world thing too. So celebrate the solstice by having this beautiful evergreen tree to remind us of sort of the cycles of nature, of cycle of life. Yeah. That's a cool tradition. Let's sort of, move it on over to our Christmas celebration. No, but I mean, there's a lot of thought that Jesus was absolutely not born on December 25th. Maybe not even born in the winter. But
I've heard theories that he was born in the spring.
Yeah, maybe so.
He was reborn in the spring, right? But,
there you go, Easter! But some thought that, the solstice is right around there. Maybe we Christians need to have a little holiday around there too. So
it's a great time to celebrate.
Kind of acculturation. But I've heard a little bit of an opposite, right? So you did a little oppositional research.
Please, give me your oppositional research.
Heard, that is a very prevalent thing, right? That the Christians co-opted the pagan tree thing. But I did read recently a really interesting thing about the Christmas tree, that in Germany, a long time ago, in a faraway galaxy called Germany, that they would bring in like trees from the outside, because it all started with a play. They would do a play. I think it was it called the Passion Play? I can't remember. But at the end of that Passion Play, there was a scene of the Garden of Eden. Right, the Garden of Eden is in the book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, right? First book of the Torah, and about these two human beings who were created by God, and then they kind of got into trouble. They went off the tracks and so forth, and then the rest of the Bible takes off from there. But how they got off the tracks was by eating an apple, right? That they weren't supposed to eat. God said, eat anything in this garden except this one thing. This is what I love about this story, because it's like God could tell me, Roger, you can drink beer, you can drink wine, do not touch that drink. You know what I'm going to go for, right?
Absolutely.
So anyway, they went for the apple, and so that's how it's an allegory, right, about how humanity disobeyed and all that. But the Germans, so they would take these trees into their homes and they would decorate them with apples based on that ending scene of that play about the Passion Play of Garden of Eden. And the apple symbolizes the sin of humanity that, through Christ's birth and death and resurrection and all that, overcame that and gave us eternal life. And today, the modern little ornaments, the circular ornaments that you put on your tree are from the apple.
My goodness.
Look at that!
But if you really knew the meaning, that's kind of a buzzkill for your celebration of Christmas.
What do you mean?
Like hanging this reminder of sin on our Christmas tree.
Fortunately, nobody knows. It's like the bloody Jesus, right?
So good Lutheran that you used to be.
Yeah.
I was also reading that Martin Luther was one of the first to put candles on a Christmas tree. Have you heard that story before?
I think so, but that's way in my memory.
Like something about, he was walking home one night and noticed the twinkling stars overhead and all the trees and thought how beautiful that was, and he wanted to sort of recreate that in his own home. Candles on a Christmas tree. Sounds a little unsafe to me. Just a little.
Oh, we did that in my family. It was one of my other favorite memories is on New Year's Eve, right, when the Christmas tree was completely dried out, right? My dad decided to put candles all over the trees. We had these little ornaments,
Actual
I think they were German.
lit candles
and
with
we'd light the
flame?
On a
candles.
dry Christmas tree.
I mean, yeah, at the end of
And
the
you're
season.
still
right?
alive.
Yeah, and we
God.
had a bucket. No, it was okay because
It's
we
a
had a
Christmas
bucket
miracle.
of water.
It's okay,
It's a
there was
Christmas
water.
miracle, Father
It's
Roger.
okay, there was water.
Bucket of water right there in case it caused a, yeah. I live to tell this story, but
my
yeah,
God.
it was beautiful though when the Christmas tree was all.
Until it burst into
I'm imagining a dry Christmas tree that's a little brown and thinking it's sad. And it's still thinking it's a Christmas miracle that you're alive.
Yeah. So let's get back to Hanukkah real quick. So, like with Hanukkah, what's the deal with the lights, right? Because we're talking about lights, right?
So the rededication of the temple involved the lighting of, when you think of a menorah and you're just sort of out there in the world, you're thinking menorah is that, you equate that with a Hanukkah menorah, but menorah just means lantern. And in the Beit HaMikdash, which was the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, there was a menorah that had 7 arms. So 1, 2, 3 with one in the middle. And that's, it's like the symbol of the state of Israel. And it was the lantern in the Holy Temple. But there's a Hanukkah menorah that has 9 candle holders. So it's got 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, and one in the middle. And that's your Hanukkah menorah. But when we rededicated the temple, it was, the symbol of lighting that menorah was the symbol of, once it had been purified and we could celebrate in it again and we can offer our sacrifices, the lighting of the menorah. And the story that you've probably heard about why Hanukkah is 8 days is that when the Greeks defiled the temple and took everything out and they broke all the little cruises of holy oil that were used in rituals and also for lighting the menorah, they missed one little guy. And there was that one cruse of oil and it was enough to last for 1 day. And they came and they found it and they're like, well, it's going to take 8 days to make more or procure more and purify it, but let's light it. And miraculously, that little cruse of oil provided enough for it to burn for 8 days. Perhaps that is a story based in a little bit of reality. Maybe it was, it burned longer than they anticipated it would be able to burn. But the real story of why Hanukkah is 8 days is that exactly 2 months ago, almost to the day, there was this little holiday called Sukkot, which is one of our major festivals.
That's why you said we were going to be getting
Sukkot.
back to that.
Back to Sukkot.
Sukkot.
Sukkot is an 8-day festival. Looks a little like Palm Sunday in that we walk around the synagogue for 8 days and shake palm fronds along also with
8 consecutive days?
8 consecutive days, really 7, and then the 8th day is a whole other wacky holiday, which literally wacky, where we pray for rain and beat willows on the ground. And it's actually our most amazingly baffling and also slightly pagan holiday.
But it worked because
we literally prayed
raining
for rain.
cats and dogs, right?
Yes, I wore a raincoat when I prayed for rain with us. I actually put a raincoat
Nice.
on, and the rabbi laughed.
Good.
But Sukkot is an 8-day holiday. And the Maccabees, once they were able to purify and rededicate the temple, celebrated Sukkot because it was the festival we had most recently missed. And if you even look historically at Maccabee era coins that were minted, there is one with a lulav because it's the palm frond with the willows and, I always forget the English name, hadass.
That's all right. Just give us the Hebrew.
Yeah, and a hadass, which is myrtles and willows. So the lulav is the palm, the willows, the myrtles, and we have them, and then we hold them together with an etrog, which is a citron, and together we hold the 4 species, and we shake them together in a ritual way. It's a great holiday.
So those 8 days translated to the Hanukkah 8 days.
That's why
I
it's 8
always
days.
thought it was about the oil.
Yeah,
did too.
so did I until I started teaching this stuff, and then I read the real story. And if you look in the book of Maccabees, it says, and they rededicated the temple and celebrated Sukkot and walked around with lulav and etrog, and you can even see coins minted from that period
Look at
with a
that.
lulav. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
The oil story, I think, was the rabbi's attempt at adding a divine
Yeah.
element because we wanted to create. This is a post-biblical holiday, so God's direct, working it would be more subtle, and I think it was the rabbi's way of making sense of how of a sort of a godly
Fascinating.
intervention.
Okay, so speaking of fascinating holiday traditions, I got one more fascinating holiday tradition that very few people know about. Very few people know about because we don't celebrate it that much anymore. Ghost stories at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Ghost stories.
I don't know
Like
anything
the ghost
about
of
that.
Christmas Past?
Well, yeah, you hit it right on the
Charles Dickens?
Charles Dickens,
Yeah.
Scrooge, right? And there's other ghost stories. In fact, Dickens used to write a monthly or weekly article for a local newspaper there in London, and every week he would, in the holidays, he would put in a ghost story. And then he wrote his play on the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. And the whole thing, but it was actually more than that. It was a whole tradition around that. And on Christmas Eve, people would gather around the fireplace and have drinks and tell ghost stories. Why? Any guesses?
I have no idea.
I love this part. We should revive this. It's because ghost stories always have a moral to the story, right? Like Scrooge, right? Like Scrooge, like he woke up Christmas morning and he was so thankful that he was alive, that he reformed. He changed. He repented of his past. And ghost stories are always about, like, they always have a moral to the story to try to teach us that we need to change. We need to become better people, if we need to. And that goes back to, like, Advent and the whole thing about, like, let's take this a few weeks before Christmas and kind of review who we are and where we want to get better with stuff. So.
All right. So at St. Hilary, they're going to start telling ghost stories, I think.
I think I'm going to start coming to St. Hilary.
There you go.
For ghost stories.
Sunday Mass.
With eggnog.
This
I think
Sunday
we're
is
gonna
going to be
have
the
to.
second Sunday of Advent. Ghost story time. So how about this one? You said Hanukkah is traditionally not a gift-giving holiday. Christmas is.
Yeah.
Because of the Magi?
Yeah, because of the Magi. Yeah. 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 Do you know the story on that?
Well, there were Magi, not kings.
We
right.
three kings of Orient are. No.
Not necessarily three of them. So that song is just totally wrong on so many levels, but I like the
I've sung
song.
all the Christmas carols. In college, I would sign up to do Christmas Eve and
Yeah.
Christmas Day so that my
Okay,
Christian
quick
friends-
diversion. What's your favorite Christmas song?
Oh, Holy Night.
Oh, that's a nice one. That's a nice one. I would probably choose Joy to the World, but that actually was not written to be a Christmas song. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah. It was based on a psalm. It was based on
me
scripture
guess.
that wasn't the Christmas story.
Coca-Cola invented it. Right?
I mean, a lot of Jews wrote Christmas carols, but not the carols, but the modern Christmas songs were all written by Jews.
But
Really?
Yeah, a lot of them were. The modern ones.
Christmas carols they're just great.
Not the carols.
But going
Anyway,
back to
I digress. I like We Three
I
Kings,
digress,
but
sorry.
not kings, not necessarily three. We think there were three because they did bring three gifts to Jesus: gold, frankincense, myrrh. But it doesn't actually say anywhere in the text there were three of them. But yeah, they came bearing these precious, precious gifts, basically to honor this newborn child, to just show him how much they cared, how important he was. That's also where the 12 days of Christmas comes from.
So is it 12 days before or 12 days after? Okay.
Because the Magi, let's see, I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole here.
Why
but
not?
It's actually
Too late. No, I'm kidding.
it's actually two separate stories that we Christians turn into one. In the Gospel of Luke is the story about Jesus being born in a manger and the angels and the shepherds. In the Gospel of Matthew is the story about the Magi bringing their gifts to Jesus. So we Christians, when we tell our pretty nativity scene, and it's such a click, click, it's such a beautiful image, the Magi are often there at the manger, but in the Bible, not so. Two very separate stories. And so Epiphany, which is actually when in the Christian tradition we celebrate the Magi coming, Epiphany, just in the Christian calendar, happens to be 12 days after Christmas Day. So it's basically the 12 days in between Christmas Day and Epiphany Day. Now, we don't even really know for sure that the Magi showed up. It was likely much longer than 12 days after Jesus' birth.
Travel times
some
were
people-
definitely longer back in those days.
There we go.
With their
Yeah, and some people
donkeys
say
and-
that he was actually a toddler.
Yes, it was years, perhaps,
Because
a couple of years.
there's which gospel is it that said they went into the house?
The house, that's Matthew. They went in the house.
Went into the
Yeah.
house,
So they
not the
didn't-
stable, not the
Yeah.
cave.
Yeah.
They upgraded from a manger by then.
Yeah, exactly.
They went back to
exactly.
Nazareth.
Exactly. But that's the 12 days is the Christmas to Epiphany, which is the Magi, and that's
Wow.
the gift giving. this thought that, we want to just show you how much we love and cherish and honor you by giving these gifts.
But years ago, I decided I'd give no gifts to anyone.
Is that right?
It just got so stressful.
Yeah.
It's very stressful.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you, like, the stress of Christmas? It's like, how do we deal with that?
Yeah, and that's troubling to me, because if you go back to the original story, the Magi gave these gifts out of joy. Like, isn't there a translation that says something like they had exceeding joy upon coming into the house to see it, or something like that? I mean, they were thrilled, they were amazed. Like, it wasn't something out of stress or out of obligation or out of tension. Yeah. It was out of pure joy that they wanted to give to Jesus. And you're right. I think in many ways, the gift-giving tradition has totally left that behind. And it's about stress and obligation. And that's, if we go back to the text, that's not what it was about at all.
I mean, it's like if somebody gets you a gift, now you have to rush out and give them a gift. And it's like, so how do we deal? What do you all think about, y'all, I said y'all.
Look at that.
I know.
His Southern's coming
out. What do
out.
y'all think about how people can deal with stress at the holidays? Any ideas? Or family squabbles, or some people get depressed.
I mean, I see a lot of friends who've had loved ones lost, and when you get to the holidays, they're feeling that absence more acutely, and that's actually a really a huge pastoral issue. Yeah. Is being able to identify the people in your community who, and being able to almost just see that and proactively reach out and make sure that they're not feeling alone, and that they're feeling supported as they're feeling some grief comes up. So that, to me, around all holidays, that seems to be, and then of course we all have friends who, are single or have very small families or are estranged from their families and have the same kind of grief and loneliness that comes up at holidays when all you see around you is people getting together and gathering with their loved ones and their families, and that can be really hard.
And you feel lonely.
Yeah. I have two thoughts on that from the Christian tradition. For me, that's really one of the gifts of the Advent season that we've already talked about, is that, that's a way to sort of say, hey, it doesn't have to be about sort of the razzle-dazzle and the going to the parties and all of that. That's fun. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to see the lights but that really is not what sort of the sacred Christmas celebration is about, right? The sacred Christmas celebration is about the birth of the Christ child and what that means, that, Jesus is coming into the world. A word that we like to use, Emmanuel, God with us. And so I think that can kind of help, like, if you're in a darker, grieving, sorrowful place, that's okay, and you don't have to sort of get up into all the lights and stuff. It can really be a very personal, very introspective kind of holiday. And I hope that's part of what we can teach, as we celebrate the season of Advent in advance. And then my second thought is actually sort of drawing on the solstice. I don't know if you guys do this in the Catholic tradition, but in many Protestant Christian churches, we actually have a longest night service on the solstice.
December 21st, right?
Yeah. Some churches call it a blue Christmas. We're calling ours a longest night service. But a specific sort of time of worship on the longest night of the year, the darkest night of the year, to really invite those that you mentioned, those who are struggling, those who are, really not in the traditional joyful Christmas spirit, to come and be in worship. And sort of a different kind of worship that sort of honors the darkness, honors the hard times, honors the struggles.
That is amazing.
I love that.
That is amazing.
Yeah, which I think is a real gift for folks who are struggling, who are having a hard time.
May I add something about Hanukkah with this?
Please.
So something, because we're like rambling, and going back to which is
That's
great.
what we do best.
I mean, we're having so much fun doing that. So with the lights, going back to the lights of Hanukkah, there were actually some. Each night of Hanukkah we light an additional candle. So the first night of Hanukkah we light one candle. You'll see two, because the candle's only job, and this is actually almost a legal, like in terms of observing the ritual properly, the candles must not be providing light so you can't read by their light, because you don't want to make your candles work. Their entire job is to be beautiful and provide beautiful light, joyous light. So that's why that extra candle is called the shamash, which is basically the helper candle. So you light that candle and it lights the Hanukkah candles, and they can't light each other. They can't do work. And you can't have them be the only source of light in your home, even though it looks better that way. And I like to turn all the lights off and just have the Hanukkah candles lit, but actually that's not the proper observance of the light. You want them just to be beautiful. And each night of Hanukkah, you light an additional one. So the first night there's one candle, the second night there's two candles, the third night, and the eighth night there are 8 candles. And there was a rabbinic sort of question that came up between 2 rabbinic schools of thought. Do you start with 8 and then reduce, or do you start with 1 and go up to 8? And there are 2 traditions, but the one where we increase the light through the holiday is the one that won out. And so it's all about the light, the celebration of freedom to practice our religion. You know, there's all that stuff that we're celebrating because we won the victory was to practice our religion freely.
Yeah.
But that light in the darkest time of the year.
Yeah.
Focus on the light.
To focus
Like
on
if
the
you're
light.
feeling-
It's actually called the Festival of Lights.
Huh. Yeah, I would say similar for Advent, right? I mean, we have the Advent wreath. We light a candle every Sunday of
Hope, joy,
Advent.
peace, and love, right?
Yes, yes. And then we often will read the opening of the Gospel of John. A light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not, cannot, will not overcome it. But I have a question. Okay, I'm going to take us down this road now. So, you know, often for us in Advent and Christmas, there's a lot of talk about light and dark, light and dark. And, you know, we try to be really careful at Westminster that it's not light good, dark bad. And I'm curious, you know, you just talked a lot about the light too. So for example, the longest night service, you know, the darkest night of the year, that's not a bad thing. You know, sometimes in the darkest night we find comfort, we find healing, you know. So I'm just sort of curious, is that sort of a
In Hanukkah,
metaphor that y'all use at all?
in Hanukkah, that metaphor is not one that's come up where I've seen it. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It's a disclaimer. Disclaimer. But in our appreciation of light, we have in our morning worship service, we have a prayer that's really at one of the climaxes of our prayer service, where we are thankful for light, and we certainly contrast it with darkness, but don't see the darkness as evil, which is funny because in the liturgy, the text I think from Isaiah, where creator of light and creator of darkness, maker of
Are you literally
peace.
translating
Yes.
from Hebrew in
Yes.
your head right now?
Yes.
I
Wow.
can see
Maker
the
of-
wheels
That's amazing.
turning.
maker of peace and creator of evil is the original biblical text. And in our liturgy, we took it word for word, but instead of using the word evil, we used darkness. No, we didn't. We used everything. No, hakol, because darkness was creator of light and darkness. But we certainly contrast light and darkness, knowing that you can't appreciate the light without the
Without
darkness.
the other, right? Yeah.
But darkness, I don't think, is really equated with evil in our tradition at all.
Oh, yeah.
That is fascinating. I've never thought about that question. You know,
Really? Yeah.
In the Catholic tradition, I don't know what the answer to that really is, but in the Catholic tradition, there's been a long-standing emphasis on inclusion, like both and. The phrase is both and, not either or. And I love that. I'll have to think about that. That's great.
What do you know?
So, anything else we should talk about, should?
If we can break, I actually had some notes, and there were a couple things I feel like I'm missing, but they're not. But I'm just having a good time talking.
I don't think you need that. I don't think you need that.
I think we
like
have covered.
the dreidel game and the.
I think we've covered a ton.
Dreidel.
Yeah.
And if anyone is still listening, they get a gold star.
That's
Right, right. If you're still here,
If anyone has stuck with us this long, good for you.
Naomi,
yes.
would you take us away with a rendition of "O Holy Night"?
Oh no. Let me see if I remember the word. I haven't sung it in a line.
Oh,
I want to. Yeah. Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Help me with the words.
long lay the world in
In sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth.
A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices. What happened?
I forgot the words. I haven't sung it in like 20 years.
A new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees. Oh, hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine, oh, night when Christ was born. Oh, night divine, oh, night, oh, night divine. Wow, you really do know that.
That was amazing.
I used to sing Christmas carols all the time, and that, I know theologically, it's not really part of my theology, and it is so.
And the music is beautiful.
The music is beautiful, and the theology is beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do we have a
Hanukkah song?
Not one that beautiful. Nope.
All right.
The only one I know is dreidel, dreidel, dreidel.
Oh, I made it out of clay. Yes, we have alternative lyrics to that. I have a little dreidel. I made it out of latke. I put it on the shelf and it turned into vodka. I have hundreds of alternative ones, but that is my favorite adult verse.
That's funny.
I do have a favorite song that is not known, and I don't even have all the words here. It's an Israeli song about a little candle that sends its light out to protect the soldiers on their watches, and it's actually very beautiful. And maybe next year we'll do this again next year, and I'll come prepared.
We'll
There's
have
some
that
really
song.
beautiful songs, and there are children. It's a lot of children's songs.
Nice.
Great songs. I don't have one that's like really.
Yeah. Okay. Next episode. See, we got to have a hook to bring everyone back to us again. We get to hear one of Naomi's
We'll have a song in
favorite
every
songs.
episode.
I'll need to be prepared.
Well, thank you all for joining us for this first episode
Look at
of A Priest, a
that.
Minister, and a Rabbi Walk into a Bar at Christmas.
Thank you,
Christmas
Father
time.
Roger, for thinking this out.
Good job.
I am the priest. You are the
Minister.
And I'm the cantor.
rabbi, sort of.
Singing rabbi.
The Jewish clergy person.
Yes.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.